Point 2, in terms of learning styles, there's a lot of debate about this. I'm not going to go into all of it, whether or not there really are such things as learning styles or whether there really aren't. On and on it goes. I'm just going to put that aside. 2A4 is what I want to draw attention to, Professor Bly. This is sort of very simple, and I like it. Teaching involves people. People differ. Thus, different teachers teach best by different methods, and different students learn best by different methods. Do you think that's right? Rings true to me, anyway. In all of its stark simplicity, it does ring true. The question is, if that really is true, what are the implications of that? What does that really mean for us? Different systems, the editorial comment, different systems tend to gravitate towards certain kinds of methods, and you tend to sort of push people into systems that have very set forms, whether or not that's really good for them or not so good for them, right? To the extent that it is possible, I mean, there are constraints of every organization and formal schooling and so on, right? There are certain constraints. I'm not such a utopianist that I don't think that there are such things. But to the extent that it is up to us to shape environments to learn, to produce ones where more of the reality of the third sentence here can be reflected in teachers learn best with teachers teach best by different methods, and learners learn best by different methods, rather than just a one narrow way, is really, really good. That has to do also with, pushing ahead to where we'll get in a little while, the value of diversity of methods. Okay? So if your only tool is a hammer, the world looks like a nail, right? You heard that? You start conforming people to one set of skills or one approach, and you make everything happen that way. And if I could be just nasty for a minute about higher education is way over-dependent upon lecture. All right? I'll come back to lecture later. Just as an example of that. Okay, so that's pushing us in a certain direction. Roman numeral 3 here is to say there's lots of layers to this difference that learners have. Right? There are differences of personality and the way that introverts and extroverts, just to take a very common distinction, operate and learn would be different. Right? There's differing ways that people process information. Some people much more linear and synthetically, some people much more organically and interrelatedly. And there's various learning tools, learning style assessments and personality assessments and intelligence tests and so on. Intelligence tests, kind of, that very phrase scares me half to death, but we'll come back to that. But there's different ways of processing information, for sure, between different people. Right? There's differing ways of interacting with the learning environment here. This is the social interaction side. We've already looked at that a little bit in the strategic learner, surface learner, deep learning typology. And then there are various kinds of instructional preferences, I'll call them here, and we're going to say a little bit more about that in just a minute. Okay? So, over the page, various kinds of learners. That list on page 34 is there largely to say, very realistically, if you've done any teaching at all, you know that there are certain people in your environment that fit different ones of those categories, those 10 there, the list. They each present different opportunities and different challenges to know how to manage them. Okay?